Wonderful. So, hello everyone. Good evening. Welcome to this event tonight with me from Untangle and Alison and Brian from Me to You Letters. Yeah, really looking forward to this event about journaling to heal and kind of how writing can help us in our grief journey. My name's Emma. If you don't know me, I'm the community manager of Untangle. We help anyone who's gone through a loss rebuild their life, and we aim to sort of put emotional and practical support all in one place. So in this event this evening, we will hear from Alison and Brian, who co-founded From Me to You. This workshop will explain and explore how writing can help us reflect and perhaps tap into emotions or stories we'd forgotten or didn't even know they were there. So quick bit about Alison and Brian. So when Brian was sadly diagnosed with cancer in 2010, his friend Alison offered to write letters to him to sort of cheer him up and get him through sort of the difficult journey ahead. With that, Alison discovered a passion for writing and is now a writer. And luckily, Brian is also now cancer-free. And in 2016, they set up From Me to You, a national campaign which encourages us to write letters to friends, family, and strangers suffering from cancer, and really sort of keeping everyone connected in a time where you perhaps feel the most disconnected. Really looking forward to the event this evening. And without further ado, I'll hand over to Alison and Brian.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Obviously, I'm Alison. And in a moment, Brian is going to talk to you about the charity. But I just wanted to, first of all, just say, this is a journaling workshop and we're about letter writing, but we think there is a huge synergy because it's all about words, it's all about writing, and it's about supporting us in life with our well-being and mental health. And writing is very much a way of slowing down, of exploring emotions, managing our emotions. And when we write, be that we pick up a pen or we're on our keyboard, often our thoughts as we write will take us in surprising directions. And also, if you know anything about the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system, of course, the sympathetic nervous system is the bit that makes you do stuff and is very proactive. The parasympathetic nervous system is the part of our nervous system which makes us slow down and reflect. And writing is a great way to distract the sympathetic nervous system and allow that time for the parasympathetic nervous system to kick in. So there's a lot of overlap between journaling and letter writing, and we're going to try and interweave them this evening. If you look in chat, you will see that we have put up the Macmillan support number. Now, obviously in this workshop, you may not have anything in your lives to do with cancer, but some of you may do. So if at any point you need to step away, you need to turn off your video, or if you want some support afterwards, you can phone that number. You don't have to have cancer to use that facility. You just have to be affected by it in some way. So can we kick off by going into chat, and just to start off with the letter theme, can you write in chat who, if you were just writing one letter, who would you write a letter to? It could be a celebrity, it could be somebody in your life, they could be alive, they could be dead, or it might actually be a place or a thing rather than a person. So can we all just go in? You don't have to explain why you're writing to them, just who you would write to, just to get us thinking about letters. So we have Susie in Australia, partners, son, mums, dads. The number you mentioned is not already in the chat. It's right at the top of the chat. It should be. But the number, if you want to take it down, is 0808 808 0000. But it's right at the top of chat. My son, parents, myself. Nice. Okay. So before we hear from Brian about what our charity is about and how it came to be and why, what we do and why we do it, could you all take a piece of A4 paper, or a piece of paper that's just big enough to put your hand on, and can you draw around your hand? Don't know if you can see that. So you get, like when you were little, you used to draw around your hand. Okay. Do we all have a hand? So then I'm going to ask you to very randomly and with no particular thought to, you're going to have 20 seconds to write words in the different parts of the hand. So I'm going to give you 20 seconds in the thumb to write down anything that is blue, anything that's blue, sea, sky, anything that's blue. Okay, and stop. And then in the forefinger, to write down any emotion that you are feeling now. And as many as you want to write down in 20 seconds. Okay, and then in the middle finger, if you could write down as many words in 20 seconds of foods that you like to eat. Okay, and then in your ring finger, 20 seconds to write down anything that sparkles. And then in the little finger, 20 seconds to write down just words that you like, any words that you like the sound of. And then finally, in the palm of your hand, to write down places that mean something to you. Okay, and then I'd like you to just have a look at all of those words and just circle two, any two that just stand out for you. And then we will come back to those a little bit later. But now I'm going to hand over to Brian to tell you all about our charity From Me to You.
Hello, everyone. Our charity started back in 2010, when I think back to it. When I was diagnosed with stage 3 bowel cancer, and I told Alison, she made an offer which was very random, and no one else made that offer, to say that I will write letters to you to cheer you up. I didn't really think that she would write letters to me because she wasn't a great correspondent. And she admitted that the last letter she'd probably written was when she was 8 years old to her aunt to thank her for a present. So I wasn't really expecting that much. But 2 weeks after she'd made that offer, and Alison wasn't a great friend at this point. She was more of an acquaintance. We'd met in a yoga retreat in India and exchanged telephone numbers when we were there, and we had kept in touch, but only randomly. So when she made the offer, I thought, okay. But she did keep to her word, and she did write me a letter, and yes, it cheered me up. And it was nothing to do with cancer. It was all to do with what Alison had been doing. So it was more like a diary or a journal of what she'd been up to in the past 2 weeks, which I found really refreshing and distracting, because I was just about to start my treatment program. My mind was sort of, elsewhere. And so to be distracted to somewhere else with someone else and listening, listening by reading the letter to what Alison had to say was a massive distraction. And that was the first of over 100 letters that Alison wrote to me over a 2-year period, while I was undergoing treatment and my cancer went from stage 3 to stage 4. And those letters really kept me in touch with Alison. And I think it deepened our friendship more than if we'd carried on as normal, just meeting for a drink or a coffee ad hoc, because those letters contained a lot of detail. When I look back at them now, I mean, it's a journal, in fact, of what Alison was doing during those 2 years, and they were funny interludes. So they were always something that really did cheer me up. I never wrote back, but I did keep a journal. And the reason I decided not to write back to Alison was that I didn't really have that much, I thought, to say to her that would cheer her up. It was a very dark time for me. It was a very period when you became quite introverted, and I stayed, I was at home. I'd previously gone to work. I was feeling quite isolated, and I didn't really feel that I had that much to say. But when I look back at the journals I kept, I did have a lot to say, and I had a lot to say about life, and a lot about anger, and a lot about fear, and a lot about death. And why would I want to share that with Alison, who was trying to cheer me up? That would have just, I think, stopped the letters in their tracks. So my journal, when I look back at it, has observations of when I go for treatment. They say, whenever I went to the oncology department and I was going for my chemotherapy, they had a blue chair, and that stuck in my mind. And I can still visualize this blue armchair that I would sit in. And it had, you could bring the feet up and you could relax while you're having poison put into your veins. But I still have that vivid memory of it. And so when I reread my journals at that time, which I do occasionally, that really leaps out on the page to me. So I became cancer-free in 2013, and Alison's letters stopped. We carried on being friends, but the letters were no longer necessary. She cheered me up. I didn't have cancer, so there was no need for that. But fast forward to 2016, and we decided to go on to Radio 4 listening project and talk about our friendship. And whilst we were at that recording studio, which was a caravan in a car park in Crawley, it was none of your, BBC sort of studio in Broadcasting House. We spoke about our friendship and how the letters had created, a better friendship. And we read some extracts from those letters. And at the end of it, the producer said, you just have to go and do something with this. This is such a great story, and it is so unusual. So we thought, okay, let's do something with this. What can we do? So we put our heads together and we decided to set up a charity called From Me to You, which was to follow the inspiration of our story, which was to write to family members, to encourage and inspire people to write to family members and friends, to send letters and cards to them so that they could connect with them. Often people don't know what to say when somebody has a cancer diagnosis. And my mantra is that it's not good enough to do nothing. You should do something. And if you can't bring yourself to talk to that person, or geographically you're unable to speak to that person, you know, face to face, then I think, you know, whilst texts and emails have their place, they don't have the same resonance with the recipient as a handwritten or even a typewritten letter or a card or a postcard. So that was our initial thing that we wanted to do. So we set up workshops and we invited people to come along and write letters, very much similar to what we're probably going to do today. But then people came and they said, well, we love writing letters and we want to write letters, but unfortunately, or fortunately, we don't have anybody who has cancer who we can write to. So what can we do? So this is why we started our Donate a Letter program. And that is where people from all over the world write anonymous letters and send them to From Me to You, where we read them and then we distribute them to various hospitals, cancer centres and hospices throughout the UK. Luckily, all the letters that we receive from around the globe are written in English, so we don't have to have translation or work on Google Translate. The person doesn't write back, so it's completely anonymous, and it's just a gift to distract them and hopefully brighten their day. I like to think of it, and when I still read some of the letters. It is a lot of the letters obviously have to be generic because you don't know the person that you're writing to. And often it's a description of nature, their garden, a funny story that they've done. And when I look back at it, it's almost as though they are writing a journal entry, a diary entry of what's happening that day. But instead of keeping it for themselves, they decide to share that with someone, and to someone that they don't know. So there's no comeback. You can write whatever you wanted. You know, we would make sure we read it to make sure that there was nothing political, anything about cancer or anything religious in there. But we would make sure we read that letter. So it is almost like a creative writing project. Since we started From Me to You five years ago, we've received and sent on 25,000 letters. And I think that's a very good achievement for when we, and Alison and I, sat in a coffee shop and decided this is what we're going to do. We're going to set up a charity to encourage people to write letters. I never expected it to be that successful. And we don't know most of the time about the people who we originally started the charity for those to keep connected with family members and friends. And we constantly hear stories of people who say, oh yeah, I write to my friend, you know, and all, and but they don't write back. I don't expect them to, but I regularly keep in touch with them that way. And I have a friend, Susie in Australia, where I put in the chat, who was diagnosed with a brain tumour 2.5 years ago, given a very low expectation of surviving. 2.5 years later, she is still surviving, which is just brilliant. And every month I write her a letter, which prior to that, she'd emigrated 15 years before. We were lucky if we got a Christmas card. But now I regularly write, and you know, it is quite nice for me to reflect on, you know, what's happened, you know, describe a spring day to her when it's her winter, describe, you know, how awful our rainy days are when she's basking in sunshine. And I do think that I get quite a big kick out of the writing of the letter, something that I never expected when I first started that. But I think what it happened for me, and I think it happens for a lot of our people, whether you're family members or friends, or you're writing and donating the letter so we can forward it on to somebody anonymously, is that the person who receives it sees it as a gift. And it's an unexpected gift that you've shared some of your time, some of your thoughts, some of your experiences with that person. And in doing so, I think that day will be a different day for them. And remember, a lot of people who have cancer, but also have other long-term illnesses, are often isolated. You know, we all know what isolation was like in the lockdowns we've had in the last few years. And I think that a letter sent to someone does change that day and makes them think, oh, someone is thinking of me. So I think it doesn't drain their energy. They don't have to do anything with it. You know, they just have to sit and read it, and they don't have to read it when it arrives. They can save it for a day or a time when they feel that, oh, I do need a pickup now. But I think it's great that somebody somewhere is thinking of those people. And for me, for Alison sending me those letters, little did I know how it would develop, that me opening letters and reading them and telling Alison how great it was to receive them, and for Alison to get a lot out of writing the letters, to go from not being a writer to being a writer. I just think that that's from a puff of air saying this is an idea, I'm going to write a letter to you. We started a charity and we've sent 25,000 letters. So I think, you know, writing is just such a vital part of our makeup, if you like. And it's something that I guess you all practice, but there's a lot of people who don't dip into that, and I do think that they should.
So maybe now we've just got 60 seconds. We can hear from Anne, who recorded this very short piece for us about, she is a letter writer for us, but she also has terminal cancer. And she receives letters from us every month from our donate a letter program. And she just gave us this little snippet of what it's like for her to receive a letter.
In my bag, I had my latest letter from me to you. That was one of the most important things that I packed. It was beautiful. She had written and stuck in photographs of her dog. She lived in Cornwall and she was writing from this Cornish beach. And her letter was so full of ordinary joys. And I thought, and I read it and reread it, I memorized parts of it, and I thought, hopefully I'll be able to walk my dog on a beach again soon. And so that was what her letter did to me. It reminded me that I wasn't alone, even though I was alone in the hospital. I wasn't on my own. It reminded me that somebody thought so much of me that she gave up her time. Somebody I'd never met, never would meet, gave up her time to write lovely things.
And we hear that all the time, don't we, Brian? Those
yes, we do.
Stories are really common. So, but as Brian said, I was the one who was writing the letters, and it was, when Brian and I look back at my letters, it was very, very much like journaling. It was me working through my life at the time, even though I didn't know it. So what I'd like us to do now is a 5-minute writing exercise. Nobody will see this, nobody will be asked to write anything out. But it's just to demonstrate to you where your mind can go when you just distract that sympathetic nervous system and just let the reflective side of you take over. So if you can go back to your hand and to those 2 words that you circled, choose one of those words. So I'm going to choose bluebell, because that was something blue. And we're going to spend 5 minutes writing a letter to that word. So what I may do if I was writing to Bluebell is I may tell Bluebell that every year in April, I have a friend on Facebook and she posts up a secret wood that she won't tell anybody where it is. She posts up photos of the bluebells there. And for me, I always kind of look forward to that every year, because it means spring is here. But also it takes me back to my childhood, when my mum used to take us to the wood across the road, and we used to walk through the bluebells, and my mum was really strict about not allowing us to pick wildflowers. And that kind of says a lot about my mum and the way that she brought us up. So that's how my letter to the bluebell would go. So if you choose your word, and just spend 5 minutes writing your letter to that word, and I'll let you know when we've just got 30 seconds to go. It's just 5 minutes. So just 30 seconds left to bring that letter to an end, although of course you might want to go back to it depending where it's taken you. Okay. And what we hope with that exercise is that it's once you kind of let your pen or your keyboard or whatever you're using to write, once you let it kind of take over, then you'll meander, your thoughts meander and can take you to places that you perhaps weren't expecting. And that's perhaps because of the unexpectedness of the subject that you were writing the letter to. Now, when we think about journaling, there's lots of different ways to journal. You might buy a book from your local card or stationery shop that has prompts in it for every day. You might choose a favorite notebook. You might write in bullet points. Something very popular now is a gratitude journal, where you might every day write down 3 things that you're grateful for. Or as somebody pointed out to me this week, maybe it'll be 3 things that you're not grateful for or that haven't gone well for you. Maybe you just write stream of consciousness. So you put a timer on your phone and you say 3 minutes and I'm just going to write and see what comes out. Maybe you do morning pages and just see what comes out. Maybe when you get stuck, you just write, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write. And then suddenly something clicks and you move on to the next bit. Maybe you journal using creative writing. Maybe you tell a story using the thoughts and ideas that you've got. Or as we're trying to do today, maybe you write a journal using the form of letters, because maybe you write a letter to the day, or maybe you write a letter to your mood, or to someone you're missing, or to a memory, or as we've done just now, maybe even to a piece of fruit. But anything doesn't really matter what you do and how you do it. It's the actual action of the writing and allowing yourself to be distracted and slowed down and become more mindful and reflective. But one thing that you perhaps do need to be a little bit more strict about is let me read you something. I've got this, sorry, I was going the wrong order. So this is on the mindful.org website. It's something that they said about journaling, and I think it's really short and really concise and quite useful to take on board. So they say, paying attention is a powerful practice, the key to presence and the foundation for mindfulness. As we slow down and tune our senses to what we see, hear, taste, touch, or smell, we realize thought and find the spaciousness to relax and deepen into the present moment. Combined with the benefits of mindfulness, a journaling practice can make an impact on your mental health and overall well-being. Journaling is not about being a good writer or even a prolific one. Whether it's gratitude journaling, bullet point journaling, mindful journaling, creative or expressive journaling, stream of consciousness journaling, it doesn't matter. It's the actual act of writing. And this has been recognized to provide multiple mental, physical, and emotional benefits. Research has suggested that the benefits of journal writing include improved mood and overall well-being, better management of anxiety and stress, strengthened immunity and physical healing, improved mental sharpness, and a greater ability to regulate emotions and emotional processing. In addition to these benefits, journaling can be a tool to enhance your state of awareness, increase personal wisdom and insight, and encourage feelings of gratitude and assist in self-reflection, and boost your creativity. You can journal for 3 minutes or for 15 minutes every day or once a week. Use a pen and paper or type on a device. For many, journaling serves as a healing practice, a private sanctuary. It's also a mental compost bin, processing your experiences without judgment, obligation, or expectation. I think that just really captures a lot of things. We could unpack all of that if we had more time, but I think it captures a lot. So I'd like us now to do a very short exercise, just to think about more of the mechanics of making sure that we journal. So just on any piece of scrap paper, I want us to think about why you would journal. So even if after this workshop you might think journaling is not for me, but just for the purpose of this exercise, let's all pretend that we're all mad for journaling. So just scribble down any notes about why you would journal. What do you want or need from it? Is it for gratitude? Is it that compost bin for your thoughts? Is it time to reflect? Is it time to remember? Is it a way to sort out a scrambled mind? So just jot down why you might journal. And then in our hypothetical, let's think about how and when we might journal. So how would you do it? Would you carry a notebook around and just whip it out whenever you had a moment free? Would you set a reminder on your phone? Would you do it weekly, daily? Would you have a set time of day? Do you need somebody to hold you accountable? Do you need to join a journaling group, or do you need a friend where you both message each other or speak to each other and say, have you journaled this week or today? And do you want to talk about what came up for you? And then the when, the kind of when will you journal? When would suit you best? When do you think might suit you best? I do morning pages, so I have to get my journaling done first thing in the morning because it just empties my mind. But if I write letters or if I'm writing a short story or whatever, I tend to do that in the evening because for some reason my mind seems more creative. Then it doesn't need to dump. It's kind of full of stuff. And then finally, what is it about you that might stop you from carrying on? So because a lot of us like to be quite perfect about things, and there is no perfection to journaling, particularly if you're just starting. So what would cause you to be too hard on yourself, that you're not writing enough or you're not writing regularly enough? And then we'd have to think about going back to the why and the how and the when, and also allowing ourselves the luxury of change. So that if the bullet journaling doesn't work, then maybe we go to the stream of consciousness. So trying out different things, not thinking that it has to be the same way. I mean, I've seen some of Brian's journals from that he wrote when he had cancer, and they're really varied. I mean, some of them have got tickets on from holidays. Others have got, another page will be a list. Another page will be some really emotional writing that he did, but he just clearly every day or however often he was doing it, he just dipped into whatever felt right at the time for him. So they look fantastic because but they represent a life. They're not ordered or particularly neat or tidy, or sometimes they're not even date order, but they represent a life. So what is it about you that you'd have to kind of just get over a little bit? Okay, so you've got those, and they are for you to perhaps revisit later when you come to think about journaling. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to think about writing a letter again, but this time the letter is going to be, you're going to write to a place where you feel you truly belong, or you're going to write to a place where you want to take somebody. But before we do that, I've just got a very short film that I would like to play for you. And this is somebody who had written a letter for our Donate a Letter programme. And we had two actors voice it. So one is the writer writing it, and then the other voice that comes in is the reader receiving it. But it's all about taking the person to a different place.
15th of March. Hello, dear friend. Today I am taking you to a place dear to my heart. Take my hand and come with me to the top of the mountains. Can you smell the air? Sweet rain from this morning. We need the rain. Bring on the crops. Take a deep breath. These mountains stretch from Rio de Janeiro on one side to Sao Paulo on the other. We're standing in my farm, my organic farm. 3 greenhouses of tomatoes, pumpkins and squashes outside. We've just planted courgettes, beets and leeks. Mondays is the day we harvest the baby leaf salad, wash, dry and pack it. Tomorrow we will deliver it down the valley, beyond where we can see from here.
Can you hear that sound? Toucans. One sings, the second responds, and then a third. They've been away for a couple of years, but now they're back. Look, they're flying away. Further up the mountain. Streaks of orange above the trees. And they'll be back. Now I must let you go home. Please take some of the mountain with you. And the next time I hear the toucans sing, I will think of you. All my best wishes, Saskia.
So for this exercise, if we could please all think of either a place where you feel truly belong, that you truly belong, and write a letter to it, or write a letter to someone to take them to a special place. And we'll start that just 5 minutes again, just to get a sense of, and just again, see where your writing takes you as you do the exercise. Okay, and just 30 seconds just to bring that part of your letter to a close, but obviously you can go back to it. Okay, so if we had more time, we would do more exercises, and we might write a letter to a mistake, we might write a letter to a memory, we might write to something that's happened that feels sad, to something that happened that feels happy. As I said to someone we're missing, we might write to our younger self, to our future self. We might write to ourselves right in this moment, right now. We might write to the person that we put up in chat, or we might write to the other word that we circled right at the beginning. But I hope what we've seen today is that whilst it seems a little bit crazy to write to something very random, the writing will always take you to the place that you are supposed to be if you give it enough time to get there. Now, I have a few recommendations of journaling books. Of course, there are so many journals. Journaling is now so popular. So I put up one very ordinary one there, sort of My Thoughts journal, which is available from Paper Choice online and in the shops. And that has quotes and prompts and space to write, space to rant. The other two are slightly different. So Wreck This Journal by Kerry Smith. This is a book where she wants you to make a mess, basically. So she might prompt you to tear a page out, put a hole through a page, scribble on a page, destroy something. So it kind of gets your creativity going, even kind of more random than we've done today. And then the Almanac Journal by Leah Lerdance is a beautiful illustrated book. And this, again, it's very different because it's all about nature. And so when you open it, it prompts you to just notice the world around you. So maybe to note the date that you saw the first rose in flower, or your favorite, what you might pick off to eat if you're going out foraging, recipes. There are pages of illustrations of pressed flowers. It covers the weather and nature, and then what we do with nature and how we inhabit nature. And it's a very different way to kind of almost distract yourself, and again, see where it takes you. So they're just three very different and random journaling books. But you might just want to journal by just picking up a piece of A4 every day. And then when I journal, I throw it away. I mean, I'm really pleased that Brian didn't throw his journals away because they're wonderful. But when I journal, I throw mine away after I've written. So it depends what works for you. Does anybody have any questions that you want to ask, or you want to put in chat? I will put up a slide that gives you the From Me to You details. So if you want to go onto our website and have a look, it's a slide that I've used previously, so it's got donation details on there, but that's not relevant for today because you know you're giving or you're involved with this charity. But it has all of our social media on there, and our website, that you can come and support us by just following us on social media, or if you did want to write letters, you're very welcome. Or if you know somebody who'd like to receive letters, that's all very easily navigated on our website.
I think Jackie's got her hand up. Does she want to ask a question, Jackie?
Yes, I do, please. Journaling, I mean, today, the first thing I thought of, because it said journaling through grief, I lost my grandson in November, and, you know, I think I want to sort of journal through the way it started, like finding him and how I'm feeling on a daily basis, and, you know, and start going backwards and to build into how I'm feeling now. I mean, is that something that journaling may help me, do you think, with my mental well-being, because I've really been struggling since losing my grandson?
I think Brian really well placed to answer that, because I mean, basically your journaling, Brian, was all about kind of living through your experiences, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's best not to have to be too structured about it, because I think morning pages might help you, mainly because I found that as a way, when you wake up in the morning, you do a brain dump really of writing. And I was always amazed by how jumbled my thoughts were, and how angry I could be sometimes. And the idea at the end of doing morning pages is that you rip them up and put them to one side. And for me, it was as though those emotions had gone away, so I could focus on the day more productively. There may be another time when you just actually would like to journal, which I did, just to say how, in a gentler way, how you're feeling, what your memories are of your grandson. You know, I used to, in my journal, you know, if I met someone and we had a conversation about the cancer, sometimes it would bring something up for me about, you know, my life and, you know, how long I may have or might not have, and the uncertainty of it all. But I do think it's a case of, you know, when Alison said about journaling being different forms and different formats, that's what I found useful. So I might go for, when Alison said it was in no date order, so I might be sorting out my wallet and I'd find a receipt where I went for a cup of coffee with someone, and I'd remember that conversation that we had a couple of days later, and I would write that down, because whilst at the time I may just, it was a conversation, but something played on my mind and I would not want to get that out and write. So, you know, with your grandson, there may, you know, there would be memories that you've got of him that you may, you know, find from time to time you want to write down. And I do think that then that becomes a place in time, for you to go back and reread at a later stage, or for you, you know, you might want to share it with other grandchildren, or you know, or leave it to them for the future, so his memory would live on.
Yeah, so that's the only grandchild I'm ever going to have, because my daughter only had one child and I only have one child, and he died 8 days before his 21st birthday. So yeah, I mean, the memories, I think, is a good one to do. And
I think that's, you know, to have those, you know, because there would have been in those 21 years some really good memories. And when you're writing them, because you connect with those memories, they will bring you joy and tears, but hopefully they will make you smile at the memory of them.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to invest in that My Thoughts journal, because if it gives you that positive affirmations as well,
yes,
you know, and ideas, I think that will help me going forward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Emma, for inviting us to come today, and talk about our charity, but also to share just writing and words. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, we're so grateful to have had both you and Brian this evening. Got some lovely comments in the chat. And yeah, I think I found that really powerful. I'm not sure about everybody else, but I think, yeah, definitely something that I'm going to look into, sort of, yeah, trying to journal more often. So yeah, thanks so much everyone for coming this evening. We've got lots more events coming up. I'll just pop the link in the chat there, and yeah, you can join and sign up to any of our upcoming events. I'll also put the From Me to You link in the chat just in case you missed that earlier there. But yeah, apart from that, have a lovely evening everyone, and hopefully see you at another event soon. And thanks again to Alison.
Sorry, please can I just ask a question? Alison, you were telling us of like the different types of journaling from, I think it was mindful something. I missed some of that. Is there any chance you could tell me or where that information came from so I can revisit it, please, and take it in?
Oh yeah,
it was a bit too much for me to take in as well in one go.
So it's on the website mindful.org.
Mindful.org.
Yes, and
Thank you.
See if I've got, and if you put in journaling, they've got lots of different articles on journaling.
Okay.
But that's just a kind of a getting started that that I was reading out. But it's mindful.org.
Thank you so much
on there.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Very welcome. Good, thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Everyone, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.